again to get those answers clarified. Whatever you don't understand, get that clarified over the next 2 days. You don't want to be calling the professor the night before the exam trying to have him explain something. We always talked about having study groups or getting together with someone from your class who understands the material, or maybe you guys compare notes to see where you're missing something. These are things that we have to crunch down and get done now. We always say take advantage of the professor's office hours and when he's going to make himself available. So by all means, make appointments over these next couple of days because you've missed office hours. So it sounds like we're at the end of the road, because we are, but we don't want you to stress and panic through this. We just want you to make sure that what you know what you don't know, and you get those answers done before you walk into that final next week. We know how to study with getting flashcards, or, some people study better by, just listening to the presentation. So if you need to go over the presentations over the next 2 to 4 days, because that's really all you have, review presentation notes, review videos, especially now in this age of asynchronous classes. Everything should still be on video or Blackboard. Just make sure that you're reviewing that information over these next few days by yourself and with classmates. And I am a big fan of YouTube. Finding good study spots, switch it up, don't study in the same place at all times. And what else did I have before I move over to Rochelle? Read and review often. It says early and often, so we're actually probably a week late with this presentation because we should have been reading and reviewing notes over this last week. For that very reason, if there's something we don't understand, we have plenty of time to get in front of the teacher's face, your professor's face, the Academic Success Center. By all means, sign up as soon as you can. If there's something that you don't understand, that you need to understand, sign up with them. Make sure your notes are organized as you're preparing for your exams. And the most important thing is make sure you know when the exam is, because the exam, as we've learned, is not on the day and time that you have the class. The exam is the day and time that the school institutes that if you have a class on Monday from 9 to 10, your exam is on Thursday night from 4 to 5. I don't understand the rationale for why they do that, but your exams are different times from when your class time is. So just make sure that you understand when and where your exam is. And if, again, focus on understanding what is asked of you for the exams. Any review materials they've given you, any worksheets, I would do them all. And find a tutor. If you can't get to the Academic Success Center, you need a tutor just to help you go over your understanding of what you think you have. And read all of your old tests and exams and notes thoroughly. So that's what I have as far as study tips. We haven't gotten into the stress and panic attacks and anxiety of it, but that's how I'm saying prepare for the exams that are coming up. Rochelle, I believe you have some comments on preparation for exams.
Yes, I do. Actually, I'm gonna share 10 steps that I found that is quite helpful in preparing for your exams. Well, our exams, call it. Step number 1, you pace yourself during this period and you take breaks. So make time to eat, sleep, and exercise, mostly sleep. When you're going through a process like that, it is important that you're sleeping well and you're not sleep deprived. It helps your brain work, function better. It helps you think better. When you study, do it within 30 to 45-minute periods, and you take a break in between so you don't overload yourself. Doing this will very much help your cognitive system. Cramming does not work. That's step number 2. The best way to study is what is called distributed practice. So it is better to find, like, if it's the week, you take the week, and in every day of the week you take some time in that period to do your studies. If it's Monday, you study from 1 till 2. That's your time. And then the following day and moving forward. In that way, your brains will get used to repeated actions of the whole study process. Number 3, we're doing healthfully hydrate. So this is the time your body craves caffeine and you're going crazy here. So I'm basically telling, consider water instead of caffeine or low caffeinated beverages. It's easier to stay hydrated within that time. Number 4, snack smart. This is where we go to junk food like crazy. Our munchies are horrible, but to save ourselves and our bodies, it's easier to go for nuts. And we go for goldfish, like whole grain goldfish. We go for hummus, fruits, veggies, anything that is healthy enough. So please avoid the fatty foods and the junk foods. Number 5, change your study environment. We are all different. We all study differently. Some of us would rather somewhere that is quiet, while others, they like noise. Find your study environment. Find something that works for you. You go in there and you do what you're supposed to. Number 6, procrastination is a slippery slope. Oh, yeah. We all procrastinate. Speaking from experience right here. Please, this is the time you put procrastination behind you and you concentrate on what you're supposed to do. So when procrastination takes over, you have to think and say to yourself, no, I have work to do. So if you find yourself procrastinating, take a few deep breaths. Acknowledge the underlying feeling of anxiety and stay yourself back to the assignment that is given at hand, whatever you're studying. Number 7, remember these study strategies. So number 7 is basically telling you this is where you've put in the work and this is where you're testing yourself. You're going to figure out, okay, am I ready for this? Can I do this? You put in a practice quiz. You test yourself. You quiz yourself, see how you're doing. And then you can move on past that. Number 8, it's go time. This is the big day, finals. This is the day that we're all sweating and trying to figure out, am I remembering everything? Am I doing it right? Did I study right? This is where the going gets tough. But need I remind you, you don't panic. First thing, if you're religious, I would advise you to do, you pray when you get into that exam, into that examination room. You pray. When you're done, if you're not religious, then you get that exam paper and you read through it. Read everything. Read where they ask you to put your name. That's how much you read. Read every single thing on that paper. Then, when you're done reading, you find what is easier for you. You just take a look at it. See what you remember. When you're done doing that, you figure out how you can use your time that's given and the amount of questions and how you can implement that to make it easier for you. Within that time, number 9 kicks in. That's where anxiety really takes over. You probably stumble on a question and you ask yourself, holy cow, what am I doing here? Am I doing this right? What is that answer? And that's where your breathing takes over and you're feeling like, okay, I'm about to collapse. Take a deep breath. Breathe and focus. Breathe through your nose. Hold it. Breathe out through your mouth. Then you revisit that question. And finally, be kind to yourself. You tell yourself, I can do this. I've got that. I can do this. And you'll be just fine. Thank you. Sherry, back to you.
That's fantastic. So we've talked about these next 4 days. You have today, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and preparing. Final starting on Monday. So, what we're hearing are people, as Rochelle and I and Kyle, talk to people, we're hearing the just the stress that they're feeling, and we just wanted to make sure that we don't go into finals feeling distress or anxiety. The first thing is to remember that this too will pass, so please try not to panic. Rochelle mentioned taking the deep breaths. There's some mindful techniques, and I wanted Dr. Brooks to kind of go through some of those, mindful techniques. I have some written down here, and you tell me if they're good ones. But it's like the 5-4-3-2 method. I think it's one just to ground yourself while you're in the exam or while you're studying. So what is it? Look at 5 separate objects in the room for a short while, then listen for 4 distinct sounds, then consider the texture of 3 objects, and then identify 2 different smells, and then notice what you taste in your mouth. So it's just kind of taking your mind off of the panic or the anxiety at the moment and putting it on something else, being mindful and putting it on something else. Can you talk more about that, Dr. Brooks?
Yes, when we're talking about mindfulness, really what we're looking at doing is focus. But one of the problems that we have, especially when we are feeling anxious, we're focusing on 1,000 different things. And so when you're thinking primarily about testing or taking an exam or even studying, where does our focus go? Oftentimes, it may be we're looking at this material. Oh my goodness, I don't know this material. Oh my goodness, I'm going to fail this exam. If I fail this exam, I'm going to fail this class. If I fail this class, I'm going to get kicked out of school. If I get kicked out of school, then I would have wasted all this money. If I waste all this money, my parents are going to go broke. If my parents go broke, they're going to lose our house. And you see, it starts to spiral. It starts to go way downhill. And you get to this point where you can't get back to study anymore. Your mind is so far gone, so worried about all this other stuff that you can't focus on your study. You can't focus on what's directly in front of you. So when you talk about something like the 5-4-3-2-1, the thing that's in common with all of those things that they want you to focus on, it's what's in front of you. So right now, I'm in this office. I can look across and I can see the books on the shelf. I can see the computer right in front of me. I can focus on those things. I can hear my son playing upstairs. I can feel the chair under me. I'm focusing on what's within me right now. The reason for that is because I can't focus on all this other stuff. Let me bring it back and focus on just these 2 or 3 things. Then you're able to then transition from those 2 or 3 things back to studying. Now, the goal with all of that, again, is to slow down your thought process. As we slow down our thought process, we can get back to where we really want to be. The thing about this anxiety that we get when we are looking at our exams or anything else, just in general, the anxiety is a runaway train. Most of the time, we are starting to freak out about things that we can't control. We're starting to freak out about all this other stuff that's outside of our control. We can't focus on those things that are in our control. And that's where we can tie into what Rochelle was talking about earlier, especially when it comes to those breaks. So you're starting to freak out. You're starting to run a mile. Your mind's going all these places. We're going to lose this house. I'm going to lose all my clothes. I'm going to do all this stuff that's going to go bad. That's when you can take your break. That's when you can take that 5 to 10 minute break, maybe even 15 if you need it. And that helps you refocus. It helps you calm down. It helps you to relax. One of the things that we see with our students is when they start getting into these anxious modes, we end up starting to sacrifice our self-care. So I freaked out for 20 minutes. Now I need to stay up later. Get that sleep. You probably need it. I have this exam that I need to study for because I haven't been paying attention. I need to study, need to focus. I need to spend all night studying. Don't do the all-nighter. Don't cram. Again, as Rochelle was saying earlier, don't do that because it's not going to work. But calm down, take some deep breaths. So one of those other ones that we've seen, I don't know, I'm dating myself a little bit, but when I was younger, I used to watch like old cartoons like Bugs Bunny or Woody Woodpecker or something like that. You'll see these characters in these cartoons start counting when they get mad. They will count. Now, even though that was a joke in the cartoon, there is some actual evidence of doing skills like counting is actually helpful. It's for the same reason as doing the mindfulness that Sheree was talking about earlier. It helps us slow down. It helps us focus on something else. The goal is to, instead of focus on this thing that's causing us anxiety, focus on ourselves first, and then second, focus on those things that are within our control.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And is the picturing the happy place kind of the same thing? Like when you're in the midst of something, just kind of taking your mind off of that and picturing a happy place?
A little bit. It's slightly different in that when we're doing the mindfulness, you're looking to direct your focus to those things that are within your control. When you're trying to get into your picturing your happy place, you're just trying to calm down in general. So that may be in those moments in which you're feeling anxious and you just don't know why. Or, when you're in that exam or something like that and you just need to calm down for a few moments just to collect yourself. So we all have that happy place. For example, my wife, she likes either a beach or a meadow with some flowers or something like that. Me, I like maybe going to the beach or being on my couch, like being in my living room on my couch watching TV or something like that. Mm-hmm. In either way, it's a spot in which I feel relaxed. When we get anxious, we're not relaxed. When we're not relaxed, we can't focus. When we can't focus, we most certainly can't study, nor can we answer the questions on the exam.
Dr. Brooks, would you consider meditation in a situation like that?
Now, meditation, yes. The problem with meditation in these sorts of situations is the amount of time it may take. So you can think of meditation definitely when you're studying, definitely when you have an extended period of time. But when you're doing your exam, that's a little different, just because for the most part we're on some sort of time limit. So you don't want to do anything that may take too long, which is where you would go into what's known as reflexive breathing. So really, it's going to be called reflexive breathing. Other people call it square breathing. It's really the same sort of thing in that you are breathing for a period of time, usually either 3 to 5 seconds of one deep breath in for 3 to 5 seconds. You hold that deep breath for 3 to 5 seconds. You then exhale for 3 to 5 seconds. You then hold your breath again for 3 to 5 seconds. And then you go back into breathing again. So it's a technique that helps us to slow down our physiological responses. So we slow down our heart rate, we're slowing down our breathing, our respiration, but also you get able to focus on something else. You can't do this without focusing on your breathing. You can't do it without focusing on your breath, because if you focus on something else and not your breathing, then your rhythm's going to be off. You do that just a couple of times, again, so that may only take maybe a minute. That helps us to really get back to our focus, because that's really the key. So when you have the studying time, when you have the hours, yeah, you can spend 10 minutes meditating or something like that. But if you're in the class and you only have 2 hours for this final, you may want to do something that's a bit more contained.
Another thing I have experienced myself, and I'm hoping that students can learn from my mistakes. Never concentrate on the room. It's always wise to focus on what you're doing, because if somebody gets up, you get distracted. If somebody leaves, you feel like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Everybody's leaving. I'm still sitting here. What's happening? This allows the whole anxiety thing to play in. So it's important to visualize, just focus on you and what you're doing, what's in front of you, and not what's around you. Canceling the noise would work.
Yes.
So let me ask you a question, because so many people are taking tests and like the test is the last thing on their mind, but they have to pass this test. Is there any type of technique that there is where you can focus on what's in front of you to test and like compartmentalize the fact that, you know, you have to pick your brother up from school, or you have to do this or do that, or, you know?
Well, yes, there definitely are different ways of doing that. The first point would be, I'm going back to what Rochelle was saying just a moment ago. You know, where are you? What can you focus on? So, for example, are you taking the exam at home, or are you taking it in the classroom? Are you taking the exam in a space in which you have more control over what's around you? So, are you in your room, or are you in the living room? So, are you in a space in which you can, you know, limit the distractions as much as possible? Because those are those distractions that are directly in front of you. Then moving on, yes. And then moving on to some of these other ones. So as you just said, you know, when you have responsibilities, you know, as you pointed out, you know, the students don't have control over when they take these exams. This is stuff that's all assigned, and it's going to, for the most part, be outside of their original schedule. So you've had students who, for the past semester, have tried to work the system in a way in which I can do class at this time, and then right after class ends, I can go get my brother. And I can be back in time for the next class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, your brother still has to get picked up at the exact same time, but now these exams are off. So, as you pointed out, which may be difficult now, but some students, it's still an option. You can try to talk to your professor first to see, are there some sort of accommodations that can be made? Can we move this exam schedule from this time to this time? Or is there any way that you can open up the exam on Blackboard or whatever, for example, just a little earlier so that I can take it earlier? You always want to ask to do it early. Never ask for it to do it later. Because if you try to do it later, then your professor's going to think, well, you know, you haven't been studying, you haven't taken this class seriously, and now you're looking for more time. But asking for them to open it up earlier, they will actually understand, oh, because he actually has an obligation now. So let's see if we can figure this one out. Point one. So try to do whatever you can by working with the professor. Secondly, when it comes to looking at where how you can actually hone your focus, that one is a skill that has to be developed over time. The thing about it is, it's not a skill that you need years to develop. It only takes just a few times. It's, you know, just doing it repeatedly. So, as again, one of the things Rochelle brought up earlier, can you hold your attention for a set period of time and then take a break? So, if you can give yourself 40 minutes and then take a 5-minute break, then another 40 minutes and then take a 5-minute break, and then you go from, okay, I did 40, let me see if I can do an hour, and then another 5-minute break, and another hour, and then another 5-minute break. So the idea is you are working this study muscle, if you will, and the more you work it, the easier it becomes for you to hold that attention. You know, so the other thing, as you were saying, you know, eliminating the distractions around you and trying to focus on what's in front of you. So, in one of the ways we do that is by trying to be in the same space every time. So, if you study in the living room, try to take the exam in the living room. If you study in the bedroom, try to take the exam in the bedroom. If you study on campus at the library, try to take your exam in the library. Now, that's not always possible, but those are some of those things that we can try to do to help maintain our focus.
Beautiful. Well, we've gotten so much. I've gotten this stuff for me to take with me other than exams, so this is great. So Ms. Wilson, do you have any questions?
No.
No. So,
not right now, no.
No, so you feel pretty relaxed. You feel like you can go into these finals and there's a comfort there for you. No stress, no panic, no anxiety.
There's definitely stress and anxiety. Just because, again, like, we're not on campus, so we can't really have that one-on-one discussion with our professors the way we would want to. Like, from my experience from this semester and last, it's just been hard just trying to adapt and basically just trying to learn everything really on your own at this point. You know what I mean? So now that we're reaching finals again, it's like more stress is on your shoulders.
Understandable. That's why you need to meet with me. We'll talk, have a few chats, laugh, and I can help calm you down. We have to help each other.
And so, Dr. Brooks, what do you say to a student like that? And she is not the only one. She is like, probably the majority of our students are, they're teaching themselves the material, and now you're tested on what you either taught yourself properly or improperly.
Well, a couple of things, because that is, I don't want to speak out a term, but that is definitely unfair. And we hear that a lot in the counseling center as well, that, there have been students who have felt as though they've had to teach themselves. And they think they may have had it right, but they don't really know for sure. Especially in these situations in which the faculty may not be as responsive as they would like for the faculty to be. It is definitely a challenge. But as Rochelle was bringing up, you can utilize your resources. So a big resource on campus is, UAP office. So you can definitely talk to your advocate, but also explain to your advocate what the anxiety is. Because for some people, it's hard to articulate the feeling of, well, I think I know, but I'm not quite sure. Well, if I look at my exams, if I look at the papers that I've done throughout the year, the professor says I have it right. They say it's right, but I don't feel like it's right because it wasn't actually taught. I read the book and I think this is what it means, but I don't know for sure. There's a different type of anxiety there that people haven't actually experienced before, because there isn't that confirmation that this is what this actually is. And that's where, as Ms. Wilson was bringing up, if I could talk to my professor, I probably would, because I think I got it, but I don't know. But I'm not going to know for certain till I get this grade back, which by that point it's going to be too late. So it's important to actually be able to name that distress, to name that anxiety, because as we go forward with these exams coming up starting next week, we are pretty much out of time. But the UAP office is here, counseling services is here. We also do have the tutors over in the library, Academic Success Center. We have all these available options, but that big one of wanting that confirmation from the professor, that is probably the hardest one to get at this point. But to be not fair, but the reality is it's been the hardest one to get, for the past year and a half. So while it's not anything that's new for us, it still is extremely unsettling. So I don't want anyone to feel as though, well, it's just over for me, because it's not over for you. You still have the opportunity to achieve your goals, but also you're not alone in this. This is what most of the students on campus are feeling. And this isn't to say just get over it because everybody else is dealing with it as well. No, this is so that you can understand that the feelings that you have are not unique to you. We're all dealing with this together. We're all going to get through this together. And we're going to do the most we can to make sure you succeed, to make sure you pass, to make sure you graduate.
Well said, Dr. Brooks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How do you feel about that, Ms. Wilson?
It's good to know that there's people who are willing to help you. And I always knew that Garrett was always there to help me as well. I think at times, how can I explain it? I think sometimes our pride gets in the way. So we want to figure everything out on our own. And we don't really want to always ask for help. We want to be able to say that we did it. And at the same time, it's like, there's nothing wrong with trying to reach out to other people to get help when you need it. And I had to learn that because I was somebody like freshman year, like I was shy and like I had so much pride. Like I didn't know how to ask anybody for help until I really needed to ask somebody for help. And I had to get out of that type of habit of doing that. So it has helped me a lot, especially now with me being a junior and moving into my next year. But it definitely has helped me. You guys have helped me a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's always good to know. That's always good to know. So in closing, Rochelle, do you have any comments, or Dr. Brooks, did we leave anything, off the table that you want to bring to the table? Is there something that you said, oh no, I got to tell the students this. They got to know this before they leave this campus this summer?
The one thing that sits with me that I've always want to make sure people know is all these people on campus are working for you. Everybody here, faculty, staff, administration, the executives, everybody on campus works for the students. So it's incumbent upon us to do our jobs for you all. We need to make sure we're doing it right. The way we know is by you telling us. Point one. Point two, holding everybody accountable. So as you were saying, try to reach out to my professors and they're not responding. You need to talk to your department chair. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can go through UAP and have UAP talk to your department chair. But you already know that. So we want to make sure you keep that up going into the fall semester, knowing that same thing. As you're getting closer to achieving your goal of graduation, are you on the track to get where you actually want to go? If you want to be a doctor, is your major going to prepare you for medical school? If you want to be a lawyer, will your major prepare you for law school? Are the things you're doing right now preparing you for your goal? Now, this is, of course, outside of finals, but it's also in line with what's coming next for you. Because we know, as you just said, you're going to be coming back for your junior year. So we know you have more to do. And we want to make sure that you recognize that we're here to help you do those things as well. But we can't do it without hearing from you. So let us know what's going on. Let us know where we need to improve so that we can do our job better for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ms. Laura, I see you on the phone. Do you have any questions on stress, anxiety, panic attacks, non-related to finals? We got some free counseling right now. I hear her talking to a student, I believe. I hear her talking to a student. So, Rochelle, if you have any final comments.
Yes, I actually do. First off, I would like to say thank you so much, Dr. Brooks. I personally learned a lot. Being an advocate and also a student, it's hard too. And I'm also preparing for finals. So I'm gonna take my advice and yours, and I'm gonna do the best of it. And I hope that Miss Wilson, again, as a student and my student, takes the advice and do what is required, what is necessary to excel. And I keep reminding myself, so I have to remind everybody that there is a light at the end of this tunnel. Right now we're in the midst of it and it's not forever. We are going to get out of it. We're going to be stronger from it all. So we just have to keep pushing. We have to keep being motivated and keep finding ways to get through this. We can do this. It's our time to shine, actually. So we can do this. Thank you so much again. I appreciate this. This was good. We should have it again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Brooks. I believe this is being recorded anyway, and we'll figure out a way to get it uploaded so that most of our students can see it at their leisure, because, you know, test taking and stress and anxiety is not something that you just experience over finals week. This is something that you experience throughout your entire college career, and even work-related things, just to get out of your head, techniques that you've mentioned and tips that Rochelle has mentioned will just benefit us in everything moving forward. So thank you, Dr. Brooks, for making yourself available. Thank you, Ms. Wilson and Ms. McKay, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Thank you for all of those who will be joining us via YouTube and our UAP YouTube channel. Appreciate it. Thank you for Rochelle for the thought of putting this together. It was well needed and timely. Wish we could have done it maybe a week earlier, just so people had more time to study, but it's all good. So you guys have a good night. And if we don't see you before the end of the semester, we will see you in the fall on ground.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here.